game. What if KD returns to the Warriors?
So if he returns to Golden State, he will be remembered as somebody that could not establish a culture on his own. He couldn't do that. He'll still be known as one of the greatest athletes, one of the greatest offensive players this game of basketball has ever seen. Him and Steph will be known as one of the greatest duos to ever play the game, but he will be going back to Steph's team, not being able to establish a culture on his own.
That's right. Next, what if the Lakers acquire Kyrie Irving?
I mean, him, LeBron James, and Anthony Davis, depending upon how they do it, will be a team that will get a chance to win a world championship. There's no doubt about it. But I would push this scenario. If there are a lot of vaccine worries around Kyrie here in Brooklyn, why wouldn't those translate to LA? Isn't it the same situation or even more delicate in LA?
Generally, yes, although at this point I think he'd be able to play. Finally, what if KD and Kyrie stay in Brooklyn?
It would be a last dance scenario. It would be, hey, look, Kyrie Irving, you have 1 year left on your deal. I'm not sure whether you and Kevin Durant are on good terms or not, but we couldn't get the right value for Kevin Durant. We couldn't get that second, first-round draft pick from the Lakers in the package we wanted. Let's play together. Let's play for it for 1 year, and then after you guys are done, go your separate ways.
So look, you're singing my song.
That sounds like the reasonable thing to do.
But look at Nick Friedel. He doesn't think it's a reasonable thing to do. Let me bring Friedel and Windy into the conversation on that front. Friedel, you've learned how to play the game here on this show. You do that look. I'm going to come to you first. Why did that elicit that reaction from you?
Greedy, the drama is overwhelming with this team. In any relationship ever, when the drama gets to 100 and you try to run it back one more time, does it ever go less? I mean, the idea of Kevin and Kyrie and Ben Simmons together, it's awesome for us. And Jay and I have been talking about this for weeks, but I just feel like that relationship between Kevin and Kyrie trying to come back next year, that would be really tough. And the biggest key is the Kyrie situation made so many people in the organization miserable last season. So that's the thing that I keep coming back to try and bring back Kyrie into the same setting where so many people were frustrated. That is a really tough sell, having been around that group.
So can they make it work? I mean, that really, because I have been preaching this same thing that it sounds to me like you are, which is, I mean, you've put together what you thought was a championship core with those three guys. Why not see it through once? I mean, they've never even seen it through once with Simmons. But Friedel brings up the real question, which is, from the relationship standpoint, can it possibly happen?
So I get it. Joe Tsai and Sean Marks have both said in tweets and public statements that it's culture over players.
Right.
I understand that. But at the end of the day, if you're getting pennies on the dollar for a talent like Kyrie Irving, I'm not going to take that exchange. I can't. And it has to be a coming to Jesus type of conversation with your two athletes that you're praying can be professional that can get you to this point. But, you go from quickly being a contender to going into a rebuild mode around Kevin Durant if you can't get the right value in return from him as well.
Right. Oh, look, if you trade away Kyrie Irving, then I lose the interest in keeping Kevin Durant because you're right. You no longer have a championship team. What are you getting in return for Kevin Durant? Well, I don't know. So Windy, jump in the middle of all this here and we'll get to the Donovan Mitchell piece and how that factors into all of this in a moment. But let's live in this for a minute here, Windy. I mean, you're hearing this, pennies on the dollar, whatever that is. What's out there and where does it go from a Brooklyn standpoint?
Yeah, I mean, all three of these sides have wanted to get out of this marriage. We have Kyrie, who was looking around for sign-and trades before he opted into his contract. We have the Nets, who have been involved in trade discussions with these players for the last couple of weeks and offered Kyrie a short-term contract that they knew he probably wasn't going to take anyway. And we have Durant, who actually went ahead and asked for a trade. All three of them have said, we're not crazy about this going forward. So to come through the smokescreen on the other side of that and having them all together, it's probably the smart decision with what is on the table for the Nets right now. And so I see why they're going there. But I just find it hard to believe that it is going to lead to the outcome that they're all looking for. I will just say that it is the second week of July. We are months and months away from training camp, months and months and months away from the start of the season. A lot of things can happen. I get why they would take this position right now, and I got to tell you, that is out there strong in the league, that this is the position that they're taking. We don't like anything, and you're not going to improve your offer, then we're taking them off the table. I got to wait and see what Durant feels about that, because literally with one tweet, he could push this in either direction.
And Nick, I'm curious about your opinion on this. I've talked to multiple people around the NBA that would say, hey, Kyrie Irving is an incredible talent, but if you're not getting the right trade scenarios in place for him, and if you're a team like a Detroit or a team like Houston that has a young core in place, and people say, well, you can just go trade him to a team like that. If I'm questioning the kind of culture that Kyrie Irving sets, I don't, but some people will. Why do I want that around my young talent?
Well, no,
I don't want that around my young talent.
There's no sense in that, right? I mean,
so that's what I'm saying. So
the trade with
a lot of
options. It's Lakers or nothing at this point, right, Friedel? I mean, I don't mean to put, I'm not stating that. I guess I'm asking it. Is it Lakers or nothing as far as Kyrie? If they can't figure out a way to make this work with the Lakers, then I feel like Brooklyn is the most reasonable option.
Greeny, it feels like the Lakers talking to people in Vegas, but nobody knows for sure with Kyrie, because as we know, he can wake up one day and think one thing and the next day something else can happen. But to Jay's point about culture, the Nets feel like their culture was crushed this season. And while there are a variety of different reasons why, and injuries played a part, all of it, almost always, when you talk to people in the organization, falls at Kyrie Irving's feet. And that is imperative to remember in any conversation. So with LeBron in place in LA, on paper, it would seem that he has the ego and the years of experience to handle it. But this is the issue. I wouldn't put him around any young team, as much as young guys in the league respect the heck out of him, Jay, as you know, because you just can't trust him, given his track record, to be out there night after night as part of a team and a culture.
That's right. While I have Jay here just for a few minutes, KJM, of course, on ESPN Radio, let me get your perspective on this business with Donovan Mitchell. So Woj tweets now that the Jazz are listening to trade offers, which feels like the first step in what could be a long process, but ultimately results in Donovan Mitchell being out of there. Our friend Stephen A. Smith, wherever he is on vacation right now, is losing his mind. Knicks. The New York Post already has him in New York. Windy brought up like the possibility of 4 teams getting involved that could result in Mitchell winding up in Brooklyn and Kevin Durant winding up in Phoenix. What is your perspective on Donovan Mitchell?
I love Donovan Mitchell as a player. I think people will say that he's undersized. I think he has a heart of a champion. I wouldn't push out a team like the Miami Heat trying to get involved.
Friedel brought that up.
He is very close to a guy named Chris Brickley, who he works out with here. He was down in Miami with Jimmy Butler. There have been a lot of rumors speculating around him. Look, I think, frankly, out of all the trade scenarios, I know we talk about KD and Kyrie. I'm not saying he's as talented as those guys, but he buys into culture. He's a guy that is supportive of culture, that is not going to give you any issues. He's not going to bring any drama to the table. And I think he can be part of a championship roster.
All right. And so, Friedel, you like that one for Miami. And what would that look like? Like, we've been talking about how there are trades that don't work in Miami for Kevin Durant. What would a trade of Donovan Mitchell to Miami look like?
Tyler Hero, Duncan Robinson, a boatload of picks, whatever else Utah wants, Greeny, that's the move for Miami to make, because you wouldn't have to gut the depth that the Heat have on top of potentially giving up Bam Adebayo if that's who Brooklyn wants. So Miami has to do anything it can to try and land Mitchell.
And quickly, Windy, what does the Knicks trade look like? What does Donovan Mitchell to the Knicks look like?
They have 8 tradable first-round picks, and I'm sure the Jazz would ask for a lot of them, maybe all of them, I don't know. And I will point out that when Danny Ainge was running the Boston Celtics, he traded for Evan Fournier 2 years ago. You have Fournier there. You would need something to ballast out the contract numbers. I don't think the Knicks are going to want to trade R.J. Barrett. I think they want to extend his contract.
All right, we will see. All of that is TBA. Guys, awesome work. Meanwhile, Jay, can I just ask your opinion on this? I want to show you something that happened. This